It's Deshaun Watson or bust for Cleveland this year. They have to find a way to squeeze some juice out of this man because right now he's scamming these boys out of a lot of money, and they got a really good team around him. Okay, you have a nice wide receiver core. You got Amari Cooper, who's coming off another fantastic season. He had 1,200 yards, 5 touchdowns, 72 catches, and he was averaging 17.4 yards per catch. You got Elijah Moore, who was pretty decent. Then you acquired Jerry Jeudy in the trade with the Denver Broncos. And I believe that Jerry Jeudy may have been one of the more underrated acquisitions that any team made during this offseason. This is somebody who I still believe has all the talent in the world to be one of the better wide receivers in the league. The only problem with that is he has struggled with the dropsies, and he also hasn't had the best quarterback play. And he has yet to amass 1,000 yards despite being a former first-round pick. But why I have a lot of confidence in Jerry Jeudy is that he's still one of the best route runners in the league. He knows how to get open. And if you can get open, there's no way you can possibly be a bad receiver. At worst, you're going to be a mid-level wideout, which is what Jerry Jeudy has been up to this point. But playing with Deshaun Watson this year, if Deshaun Watson can wake the hell up and we just get a tad bit of the Deshaun that we saw in Houston, hell, we don't even need to see the Houston Deshaun. Like, we just need this dude to be freaking decent. And I don't know how the hell Cleveland was 5-1 with him as a starter last year, because the dude only had about like 2 or 3 good games before he went down with that injury. He balled out against the Titans and the Cardinals, but, you know, he struggled against the Ravens for the first 3 quarters, and then he put together a really good fourth quarter to get them to win that game. But this is a make-or-break year for him this year. And this offense is only going to go as far as what Deshaun Watson takes them. Because Kevin Stefanski is a really good play caller. All right, they do have a new offensive coordinator. They got rid of Alex Van Pelt, who now is with New England. Ken Dorsey is going to be replacing him. And yes, this is the dude who was calling plays for Buffalo last year, who got fired midway through the season. And Buffalo's offense did improve once, you know, they got rid of him. But that doesn't mean that this dude isn't going to be able to help Deshaun Watson improve. Because, you know, Josh Allen did give a lot of credit to Ken Dorsey for him being able to reach the point that he is in his career. He played a large role in helping develop Josh Allen. He was on that staff when they first got him. So I think that Ken Dorsey, although he isn't going to be calling plays, he can have an instrumental part in getting Deshaun Watson playing at a serviceable level. And with him not calling the plays, I don't think that the addition of bringing him in hurts Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski is still going to be the guy calling the shots. At running back, Nick Chubb, his rehab from that gruesome knee injury that he suffered last year is going pretty well. There are articles that I've seen that have said that he could be ready by training camp in the preseason, but if not, he definitely should be ready to play come early this season, rather it be week 1 or week 2. You got Jerome Ford, who had a breakout season, 804 rushing yards, 4 yards per attempt, and 4 touchdowns. He also was a pretty big factor in the passing game. He had 5 receptions in the passing game. He also had 44 catches for 319 receiving yards. You also signed Nyheim Hines and Deontay Foreman in free agency. So you got a pretty good and deep running back room. And all of these guys should be able to have a lot of success. Even Nick Chubb, even if he isn't the same player that he was prior to that injury, with how good this offensive line is, there's no way that anybody in the running back room should struggle this year. This offensive line should revert back to being the top 10 unit. Last year, they got hit with the injury bug heavy. They lost 3 of their starting offensive tackles, and yet they were still playing at a really good level. And a big part of that was because of legendary offensive line coach Bill Callahan, who is probably the biggest loss that Cleveland had to suffer this offseason, because he left to go coach under his son down in Tennessee. So the guy who they have replacing him, you know, he's pretty good, but when you're losing somebody that has the kind of legendary status that Bill Callahan has, it's going to be hard to replace that. But they do have a lot of depth when it comes to their offensive line. Hell, like, they probably have the deepest offensive line room in the league, and they're going to have some competition to determine who's going to be their 2 starting offensive tackles, and that's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. You got Dredrick Wills, who prior to getting injured last year, he was starting at left tackle. And then at right tackle, you got DeJuan Jones, who played really nicely in replace of Jack Conklin, who got injured during week 2 of last year. Now, Jack Conklin, he's getting up there in age. DeJuan Jones is younger. He's bigger, way more athletic. If DeJuan Jones ends up outplaying or outperforming Jack Conklin throughout training camp and the preseason, there's a strong chance that we end up seeing him probably get traded elsewhere. They try to get some compensation in return for him. And there definitely are some teams that can use Jack Conklin's services. Like, I can name plenty of teams that need him right now. Hell, the 49ers are one of them. The Raiders are up there. Jack Conklin, he definitely is still really good despite the injury, despite the age. It's just that DeJuan Jones is so much younger and he's so much cheaper because he was a mid-round pick and nobody really even expected DeJuan Jones to be this good right out the gate. He was supposed to be a developmental guy. So there's a lot of talent on the offensive line for the Cleveland Browns. They got a pretty good receiving core. I like Cedric Tillman to end up possibly being a breakout candidate if Jerry Jeudy doesn't end up playing well. And Cedric Tillman, he had a couple of plays last year where he laid out some really mean blocks on opposing defenders, especially the one that he laid out on one of the linebackers or defensive linemen for the Baltimore Ravens last year. It was a play-action rollout play that they had called for Deshaun Watson on one of the tight ends. I believe it was Harrison Bryant, who ended up getting motion to the left side, and then Cedric Tillman just absolutely destroyed the guy from the blind side. Like, oh my goodness, I love Cedric Tillman's game. This dude is a throwback wide receiver, great size, really physical. I hope that he gets a little bit more opportunities this year to show what he can do, because I would love to have him on the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. If he was on the Steelers, he without a doubt would be their wide receiver too. And then you got David Njoku, who has started to cement himself as one of the 5 best tight ends in the game right now. So the Cleveland Browns offense, how successful they're going to be in 2024 largely depends on how well Deshaun Watson plays. Are they going to be able to squeeze some juice out of him? I kind of feel like Deshaun Watson is cooked, man. I don't think we're ever going to see the version of Deshaun that we saw in his glory days with the Houston Texans, but that doesn't mean that he can be serviceable. It's like Joe Flacco, if he can lead this team to the playoffs, I don't see why Deshaun Watson can't do the same thing. And they were 5-1 before he got hurt. So it's not like they weren't winning games with him. It's just that, they were winning games in spite of him not playing well. And one thing you don't want to see is a guy like Joe Flacco coming off the couch and leading your team to glory and outperforming the dude who you're giving $230 million fully guaranteed to. So they got to find a way to get Deshaun Watson playing at a decent level. Like I said, I'm not expecting Houston Deshaun anymore. I think that's long gone. But you can't tell me that he can at least be an above average quarterback.